Welcome, everyone. I'm Grace Korea-Kanja, and this is Africa Matters. Now, civilians are trapped in Sudan's Darfur city of Al-Fashir as the Sudanese armed forces and the paramilitary rapid support forces battle for control. We look at what daily life is like for more than 1 million people who find themselves under siege. Now, that's because the RSF paramilitary group led by General Mohamed Dagalo has besieged the city for months, seeking to wrestle control of it from the Sudanese armed forces led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. Let's break this down. Al-Fashir is home to over 1.5 million people, most of them internally displaced persons uprooted from their homes in Darfur in the early 2000s and after the conflict that began in April last year.
When women in Sudan go out, or women in displaced camps go out to farm, they are raped or killed.
Dozens of people have been killed since May 10th by the fighting near their homes and internally displaced persons camps in Al-Fashir as the city is cut off from essential food, fuel and medical supply lines. Most Al-Fashir residents are from the Zagawa and Far ethnic groups, which are non-Arabic speaking tribes. They fear that they could be targeted once again, like they were in early 2000s by Arab Janjaweed fighters who make up today's RSF, prompting this warning.
This situation today bears all the marks of risk of genocide, with strong allegations that this crime has already been committed. Civilians are far from protected. Civilian populations are targeted on the basis of identity. In Darfur and Al-Fashir, civilians are being attacked and killed because of the color of their skin, because of their ethnicity, because of who they are.
Right, let's hear more from Al-Bashir Idris. He's a Sudan affairs analyst and he joins me from Cardiff, UK. Now, is the world ignoring an imminent genocide in the Darfur region like the UN is warning?
Well, currently what we're seeing is not only the genocide happening in Al-Fashir, but other events around the world that has made the situation in Al-Fashir very difficult to keep eyes and track on. It seems that there seems to be a strong genocidal intent happening in Al-Fashir. However, the world and the reactions from the world, as you've put it, has simply ignored it. Al-Fashir is currently home to about 2 million people. 800,000 of those are people who fled other parts of Darfur. And Al-Fashir is the capital of North Darfur. The other states, the other 4 states of Darfur has been taken by the rapid support forces. And as such, all these citizens who have left their homes in other parts of Darfur, Al-Fashir is their last bastion, for that. Of their defense. They can't run away. They don't have safe routes and passages to get to other countries. And currently the city is surrounded. Thus, this is a siege on the city of Al-Fashir.
Right. So in light of that, what can actually be done to end the siege that's currently gripping Al-Fashir?
Well, that's a very difficult question because currently what we're looking at is either the beginning of the end of the rapid support forces or perhaps the beginning of a new independent state. All the rapid support forces really need to do is capture Al-Fashir, thus capturing all of Darfur, thus having a potential a new country on the horizon. However, the rapid support forces have been denying rumors that the RSF seeks to declare an independent state. Though in this case, in terms of ending and cutting the supplies to those who seek to cause more havoc, the international partners involved in this war really need to be called out. Otherwise, it will be such a shame to see, and everybody understands that this siege is happening, yet the world hasn't reacted. As previous experts have talked about, the casualty numbers that we could see from here could be over 110,000 casualties. That's more than Hiroshima and Nagasaki combined. These numbers are frightening for anybody to hear. Coupled with this as well, because of the siege, not enough important medications and food are being able to reach inside the city. And furthermore, those who have been displaced within the city themselves, they've been shelled by artillery, have been hit by airstrikes from both sides, and the Sudanese people are caught in the middle. However, there is a clear aggressor in this in this scenario, and this aggressor and the RSF and their allies, especially the UAE, need to be called out, and the international community really needs to put a heavier hand on its allies to make sure that this siege does not go through. As we've just said, with the UN coordinator, Nkweta Salami, saying that this is hell on earth. These are not light words to come by. Furthermore, not only civilians, however, INGO staff have been getting killed and been getting caught in the crossfire. On Saturday, there was news of MSF Médecins Sans Frontières team member was killed when a shell hit his house near Al-Fashir in the Grand Market, it's been stated. This is a tragic incident that not only happens to the civilians, but all those who want to do something about alleviating the humanitarian situation in Sudan.
Right. Right, Idris. And you mentioned the rapid support forces. I want us to talk about what it will mean for residents of Al-Fashir if it actually falls into the hands of RSF for Darfur and the country.
Well, we've seen the genocidal intent they've had 20 years ago with genocide in Darfur. We've seen the stories of people running away, fleeing for their lives. We've seen the ICC hand out arrest warrants for those who've orchestrated, masterminded the genocide, and those very same people who have received those warrants, but at the same time, those on the ground in Darfur, they're the same ones from 20 years ago. And we're seeing a replay. We're seeing history replay itself, unfortunately. And so because of that, it's very imperative that those who are on the ground and those who've seen the RSF, they do not believe that the RSF intends to come with good intentions for them, especially with raising scorched earth tactics with video clips that they post themselves of burning villages such as Shagel Nil in Darfur. Mm-hmm. The way they round up civilians and shoot bullets into the air, every single bullet shot up has to come down eventually. Nobody believes that this militia or this paramilitary force has the professionalism needed to be able to conduct statecraft and have a new independent state, nor be able to rule over them. This is essentially what the Sudanese people revolted against in 2019, and we're seeing the same of that now.
Thank you so much, Idris, for your time and contribution.
Thank you for having me.
Now, still to come here on Africa Matters. Now, Nigeria changes its tune, reverting back to the national anthem that was dropped nearly 50 years ago, raising questions about the president's priorities as the country grapples with a cost of living crisis. Meanwhile,
I am Palum David in Abuja with a story of how Nigerians are reacting to President Tinubu's first year in office.
Now, from severe floods to the effects of global food inflation for Kenya's economy, the hits just keep on coming. As President William Ruto's administration attempts to navigate these turbulent waters, proposed tax increases on essential commodities has sparked both concern and anger. And Masharia brings us that story from Nairobi.
In the heart of Nairobi, bustling markets and busy streets are the pulse of the economy. Yet, beneath the surface, there is an undercurrent of worry. Natural disasters, global inflation, and a soaring exchange rate have all hit hard. And the government's decision to raise taxes has sparked a wave of anxiety.
The imposed taxes will cause the prices of commodities to go up, and already the cost of living is very high. Hence, we lose a lot of customers because of consumer low purchasing power.
The increase is part of a broader strategy to increase taxes on essential goods, a measure President Ruto argues is vital to meet revenue targets amidst a slowing economy. The announcement has angered many Kenyans.
I think the government was trying to avoid
the 400 million that they refund every year. So what they were thinking that if we put a VAT on bread and then we are paying, we don't have to refund the input tax. But then you see, as far as people are concerned, so long as you touch it, any food item, you're basically harming us. I feel that the government, whoever was advising the government, should have actually thought of, let's remove input tax, so that if there's no input tax, then we don't have to do VAT refunds. And I hope that they will get to that space.
On the streets, the sentiment is clear. Life is already expensive.
First of all, it can affect me because, you see, as a business person, the income I get here is very little. I might sell one book. I've sold it for 500, and that 500 at the end of the day can't help me. I want to buy food, pay rent, and also travel to get home. And you find there's nothing left. So if I'm told to pay tax, it will be very difficult for me.
We are saddened and oppressed in our lives because of the demands the government have placed on us. It imposes responsibility on us to the point where, with the work we do, we find that we are unable to support our families.
And some analysts argue the increase wouldn't be necessary.
Kenya has no problem with the tax it's collecting. I think we are collecting enough tax to run this government. But numbers have been thrown off air that Kenya, we spend a third of what we collect doing the right thing, a third of what we collect in corruption, and we waste a third of what we collect. If we spend correctly the amount of taxes that we pay, we don't need to increase any taxes because we are going to reduce corruption, we are going to reduce expenses.
As the government prepares its budget for the 2024-2025 fiscal year, people are hoping for some relief.
It's a critical time for Kenya, and the decisions made in the coming months will undoubtedly shape the economic future of the country. Balancing fiscal responsibility with easing the burden on struggling households will be crucial. Anne Masharia, Africa Matters, Nairobi.
Now, people in what was once Africa's biggest economy are also struggling to survive as Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu marked 1 year in office on May 29th. And Nigerians have mixed feelings as some believe that Tinubu's administration has made living conditions of citizens worse, while others disagree. Paulum David reports from the capital, Abuja.
It's a slow business day for Nneka, who sells household goods. The inflation rate in the country has hit almost 40%, while the minimum wage still stands at about $20. Businesses like this are suffering, as Nigerians say the cost of living is biting harder under President Tinubu's administration.
He removed this fuel subsidy. Immediately, everything just take a different dimension. We don't see customers again, unlike before. We sell in quantities. But this time around, people come just pick one or two things. When you ask, they say, madam, there's no money in the country.
Organizations are also feeling the heat. Emmanuel Osemeka, who runs a non-governmental organization, says he has cut down drastically on the cost of operations to save his company.
We take care of vulnerable people in some areas. In the past, it used to cost us, what it costs us now is like 3,000% what it used to cost us in the past. So if you were taking care of like 10,000 households before, now you can't take care of 10,000 households. You have to reduce it because the money is not increasing. So I know so many businesses that have shut down because of the bad policies or the policy flip-flops.
In May 2023, Bola Ahmed Tinubu was sworn in as Nigeria's president. He promised to improve sectors such as security, economy, agriculture, power, oil and gas, transportation, and education as part of his renewed hope agenda. But Nigerians are yet to feel the impacts.
Bag of rice is 65,000. Everything costs, no food, nothing. People, they die for hunger. Make government to help us.
1 year later, some of President Tinubu's supporters say there has been infrastructural development, especially in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. So, President Tinubu deserves some praise. They argue that fixing Nigeria's challenges cannot happen in under a year, and the president needs more time to make improvements in the socio-economic sectors.
Now that 1 year is gone, maybe that's the period moratorium, time to say, okay, oh, I never knew it was this bad. Now that I know. By the second year, it's going to be very difficult for anybody. Mid-second year, it's going to be very difficult for anybody to make excuses anymore. And then number two is the fact that economies respond to realities. One of our realities is the fact that we're not a production nation. We don't have a lot of things to export. And you can only earn FX to show up the fortunes of your economy if you export. We are not exporting anything. Oh, so you expect that Ashwaji will be able to now get things to export in 1 year? How about now? It's not going to happen. Let's be very realistic.
Nigeria has had uninterrupted democracy for 25 years. However, citizens say this should be a moment of reflection, evaluation, and strategic planning in order to improve their lives. The next stage is to tackle the economy, healthcare, and social issues that have lingered for decades. Paulum David, Africa Matters, Abuja.
Well, also dragging on for decades is the war between the M23 rebels and the Congolese army in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Tens of thousands of people have been forced to leave their homes. Many of the displaced are separated from their loved ones, losing contact and left to imagine the worst. Zanem Netizaid reports on how an aid organization in Goma is trying to help families reconnect after being separated by war.
At the Rusayo camp for the displaced in the Democratic Republic of Congo, people gather around a Red Cross phone booth, hoping for the chance to hear a familiar voice.
I communicated with my mother. It had been a long time since I had spoken with her. I couldn't reach her because I don't have a phone. Now I'm very happy because I didn't know where she was. And now that she told me she is fine, I'm very happy.
Denise Rugigwe was separated from her mother when she fled fighting in her hometown. They lost contact for months, but thanks to the Red Cross, have finally managed to speak. Mahano has not been so lucky. He's tried for several days to reach his eldest son, who he says helps him to provide for the family.
I don't feel well. I'm sad to see that I can't reach my son. I was going to tell him that his brothers are sick. We are suffering. I would have liked him to know what we are going through and, if possible, to help us.
Several displaced families have been reunited thanks to telephone booths set up in camp like this. More than 100 people come here every day to make calls that would otherwise be impossible. Connectivity problems and poor access to mobile phones makes communication difficult.
One of the activities we carry out for the displaced is the re-establishment of family ties. When a displaced person has a telephone number of a relative with whom he or she has become estranged, we dial the number and re-establish family ties. In this Rusayo camp, we receive on average between 100 and 120 people a day.
It's a seemingly simple service in a place where people rely on charity to meet their most basic needs. But for those trapped here, unable to return home, it's one of the most important. Zanem Netizaidi, Africa Matters, Goma, DRC.
Tamale's historic city of Jene now, which is known for its striking mud mosque that requires a new layer each year. The mosque recently had its annual restoration despite the ongoing conflict that has collapsed the tourism industry and impoverished its residents. Iran Dench reports.
Kolaba used to earn a living as a tour guide in Jen. The city is home to the world's largest mud brick building, which has been on the UNESCO World Heritage in Danger list since 2016. The mosque used to draw tens of thousands of tourists to Mali every year. But a 12-year-long conflict has decimated the tourism.
À cette période,
Hotel arrivals used to amount to over 300,000. This was the fast period. There were Americans, French, Chinese, Italians and such. It was really a popular destination. Given the security crisis, this clientele is virtually absent from Mali now.
And it's taking its toll on locals.
We believed that this crisis would, sooner or later, end, and that everything would resume as good as it was before. But the more that time passed, this dream became illusory. Now, it's really difficult.
Nonetheless, residents came together recently to take part in an annual ritual. The building requires a new layer of mud each year to prevent it from falling into disrepair. The whole city works as a team, taking the opportunity to teach the younger generations the importance of their cultural history.
When we get there, each one of us goes to a certain spot to supervise. This is how we do it until it's done. We organize ourselves and we supervise the younger ones. When it's all done, we will bring others up to make sure the work is good.
For a city that's fallen on hard times, this ancient mosque continues to stand as a source of pride. Yaran Dinch, Africa Matters.
Climate change and prolonged droughts pose an ever-increasing threat to agriculture in Cape Verde. The government, along with the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization, began training farmers to fight pests, manage soil and animal production, and offer other useful techniques in adapting to the effects of climate change. Brenda Radido reports.
A training session empowering Cape Verdean farmers to be independent. About 80% of food sold in Cape Verde is imported, and it's hoped that this will boost local supply with the help of international partners.
This cooperation allows us to reinforce our producers' and technicians' capabilities, bringing in technology, share knowledge and technology between China and Cape Verde with the help of UN's Food and Agriculture Organization.
They are looking with Cape Verdean eyes, bring in Chinese expertise. To me, this is unique. This is very valuable because countries that have faced similar situations and they have found solutions, possible solutions, come to share and share meaning working day by day along the years for 3 years.
Farmers here say there's been reduction in food production due to soil erosion, low soil fertility and plant pests. And for Celestina Tavares, a livestock producer, she's been taught how to turn her crop residue into nutritional animal fodder.
I found the training useful because it is very resourceful, as you can preserve the pasture and you can feed the animals. Sometimes there was a lot of waste and residues left. Now we can make use of everything for the cattle feed.
Even before a severe drought hit Cape Verde in 2018, the agricultural sector was feeling the heat. And farmers are still struggling to recover, and they've seen reduced grazing grounds and harvests, leading to food insecurity in 2022.
2017 onwards, we began to feel this climate change more strongly here in Cape Verde. We started having more pests, more difficulties, and since then, everything we've planted has been a struggle. Before, everything we planted, we were able to harvest. Now we cannot because of climate change.
Cape Verde imports most of its food products, including animal fodder. The country hopes this project will make it more self-sufficient and less vulnerable to market shocks and fluctuating prices. Brenda Radido, Africa Matters.
And finally, this week, we're heading to Mahajanga, which lies on the northwest coast of Madagascar. The city is the capital of the Boyana region and serves as a gateway for international trade. Let's take a closer look. That's our show this week. Share your thoughts and suggestions about the stories you've seen on this episode or ideas on what you'd like us to cover on next using the hashtag Africa Matters. Thanks for watching, and it's goodbye from me, Grace Korea Kanja.